Hello everyone and welcome to a really wonderful game from the 1896 tournament that was played in Nuremberg in Germany. It was played between Emil Shalop and Mikhail Chigorin. You guys pretty much know who Chigorin was. Shalop, on the other hand, he wasn't an unknown player. He was well known in the chess circles, but he was never really a chess professional. He often played for fun, and he wanted to have a good time and create something fun on the board. And that's why maybe when he played against the absolute top class, he didn't do all that great, but if you give him a weaker opponent, he would just obliterate him, and pieces would just be flying off the board. We're gonna show at least one such game after this one, but now let's concentrate on this one. But it's a very interesting tournament, and it would be fun to cover pretty much all the games from this tournament. If anything, for some sort of a historical value. But as I am planning to make some more sagas in the future, we will probably be covering this tournament as well, so we're going to return to it at some point. So Shalop with the white pieces opens with e4. We have e5 by Chigorin, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. Shalop goes for the Ruy Lopez. We have a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4, and knight to f6. We have knight to c3, d6, d4 now, striking in the center, and now knight to d7. And here you can already see the difference between modern chess and 1896 chess, where in modern chess b5 would be played right away, whereas knight to d7 isn't as impressive because, it's... White can really take advantage of this to get some development in. For example, if you go bishop to g5, you attack the queen. Let's say bishop to e7. We're going to capture here. And now after queen captures, we're going to play knight to d5. And after the queen moves, because the c7 pawn is hanging, we're going to play d captures on e5. And after knight captures, we're going to capture again. So this knight is pinned. We're going to capture here. Now queen to h5. And well, it's already you can already see that there's quite a lot of development for white here. Castles, and white's gonna castle queenside, and this will be, of course, very, very good for white. So that's why here just b5 instead of knight to d7 is played nowadays. But okay, here knight to d7, we have d5 by Shalop, knight c to b8 by Chigorin, and bishop to e3. So continuing development, bishop to e7, and now knight to e2, getting ready to knight to e2, getting ready to push the c4 pawn. We have castles by black, and now knight to g3. We have knight to f6, and now finally c4. We have c5. You can see that black did not play b5 at all for the moment. Castles by white, and now knight b to d7. We have bishop back to c2. The pawn is a little bit weak, so maybe we want to play knight to f5. We don't want to weaken our e4 pawn, and now finally b5. We have b3 defending c4, rook to e8, and now knight to d2, getting ready to execute f4 here. So here, knight to f8, remaneuvering the knight to g6. We have h3, and now knight to g6. And here, it's a very delicate position that should be treated as a very, very modern one. For example, with something like a4, and after black makes a move, bishop d7, defend the b5 square, maybe try to overload that bishop with knight to f5. So maybe white could build something on this. But here, f4 was played because that's what white prepared. But this will be very good for black, as you'll see. So here, black should capture on e4. Why not capture this bishop? It's going to be great. Rook captures. We're going to play knight to d7, bring the knight to e5, and then maybe even bishop to f6, bishop to d4, knight e5. It should be very good for black. But after f4, we have the immediate knight to d7, and now we have queen to h5. Here, black just allowed f5, and that's not something you want to do. You really want to capture on f4. But okay, this is 1896 chess, so queen to h5, and now we have e captures on f4. We have bishop captures on f4, and now bishop to f6. Still waiting with this capture on f4, first attacking the rook on a1. We have rook a to d1, and now finally knight captures on f4. We have rook captures on f4 and g6, now chasing away the white queen. Queen back to e2, and now bishop to e5. putting pressure on this rook here. Rook back to f3, and now bishop to d4 with check. We have king to h2, and now knight to e5. So now black is playing incredibly well. These are the positions that the old masters really knew how to handle. And now you can't really save the rook. The point is, if you go back, let's say rook to f1, we're going to play knight to g4 check. That was Chigorin's idea, and if h captures on g4, queen to h4 is checkmate. The bishop covers g1. So you couldn't really capture the knight here. You'd have to go back. The g1 square is covered by the bishop, now just knight e3. So you're going to lose the exchange regardless of what you play. So after knight e5, we have rook d to f1, and now bishop to g4. There's no rush in capturing material here. We can just, repeat this again. We know that the anything that's in g4 cannot be captured due to queen to h4. So queen to e1, unpinning, and now Chigorin just wins the rook. So bishop captures, g captures, and now b captures on c4. Some captures will occur now. Captures, and now rook to b8. Chigorin, of course, wants to bring the rook to b2, so Shalop has to prevent this. He plays bishop to b3, but now a5. We will gladly give up the pawn to open up the b file to play rook to b2. So here, knight e2, attacking the bishop, and Chigorin just brings it back. We have knight to c1, and now a4. Of course, we're going to give up this pawn to open up the b file. Bishop captures on a4. Now comes rook b2 check, king to h1, and queen to c8. Now Chigorin wants to play queen captures on h3 check. So queen to g3, and now rook to e5. We want to get the other rook into the attack as well. So queen g4, offering a queen trade, and now queen to d8, avoiding the trade with ideas of queen a5, maybe queen to d2, queen to h2 checkmate. It's not easy for white to play this. So queen to d7, now offering a queen trade, and now rook to g5, saying that, okay, if you trade queens, it's basically game over. For example, captures, I'm going to play, well, if I play rook to g2, it's a game over, so you kind of have to play rook to g1, and now I can just trade captures, and rook b1, and you're going to lose the knight, and I'm just up too much material. So after rook to g5, we have knight to d3, attacking the rook here. But now the very nice queen to a5, again offering material. Point is, if the rook is captured, there's queen to d2, and how are you stopping checkmate? Again, if rook g1, we can just capture this. If king captures, bishop d4 check, and you're getting checkmated. King to h1, queen e1 check, you can go here, queen to g1 will be checkmate. So instead, after queen to a5, we can't capture the rook here. We have to play rook to d1, but now it doesn't really matter. We have rook captures on a2, now threatening to pick up the bishop to b3, and now rook back to d2. Attacking the rook. Also, if the rook moves, we're going to pick up the knight, and now comes queen to a4. Here, Shalop offers a queen trade, but it's simply too late for such things. It's actually a forced mate in 9 for Chigorin, so feel free to pause the video here and try to find this beauty of a mate while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding any of the nice moves like rook captures on d1 or queen to c3 or something like that, but none of this is mate in 9. It's mate in more than 9, but the mate in 9 is actually bishop to e5. We sacrifice our queen, and there's nothing white can do about this. Or rather, white can't even accept the queen, because if you capture the queen, it's just a much quicker checkmate. Rook h2, and this is now checkmate. So there's that. Of course, the queen cannot be captured. So why is bishop to e5 so strong? Well, it doesn't matter what you play. If you block it with f4, we still just capture, and we're again threatening mate in 1. So the bishop has to be captured, but now we simply play rook captures on d1 check, and we free this diagonal to play queen to e1. So it doesn't really matter if the rook is captured. Let's say bishop captures, queen to e1 check, king h2, and now queen to g2 will be checkmate. And another one after bishop to e5, let's say you decide to just eliminate one of the attackers with rook captures on d2, still queen captures on d2, there's no defense. This is checkmate, whatever you play. If queen to a2, guarding the second rank, we play queen captures on d3, now threaten queen to f1, and if queen to f2, now just queen b1 check, and again, everything is checkmate. Queen to f1, queen captures on f1, this is again checkmate. So after this queen to a4, Chigorin just played bishop to e5, and it was in fact in this position on move 41 that Emil Shalop resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So yeah, quite a game in this tournament. Like I said, we're gonna probably cover it at some point, so I don't want to give up too much from this tournament. But of course, you guys are always wondering who won such a prestigious event. Of course, it was Emanuel Lasker who won it with a full point lead, and it was just a wonderful tournament. So yeah, we're gonna show at least one more game that Shalop played, because against weaker opponents he just creates these beautiful masterpieces on the board, and you guys will enjoy that a lot. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it and that you've enjoyed this forced checkmate in 9 moves that starts with bishop to e5. Hope a lot of you were able to spot this. I would like to thank Jonathan Maista, David Hertz, Robert Stedelman, Benjamin Bryant, and Ryan Urban for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.